In a real estate deal, there are so many people involved, and most new investors have no idea how many people it really takes to get a deal done. So in today's video, I'm gonna explain the entire house flipping process so that you can understand who's involved in the deal, how are each parties actually benefiting, so that you kind of know what to expect for your very first deal. And if you are new to the channel, my name's Justin Yearong. I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur here in Las Vegas. I've made hundreds of videos teaching people about real estate, and the goal of this channel is to help you grow your money and mindset. Also, if you want to see more personal content, follow me on Instagram at Justin Yearong. Okay, so let me just walk you through a deal that I'm going through right now. And for this particular deal, it's a deal that I found on the MLS. It's gonna be a house flip, and I'm not using any of my own money. So with those things in mind, let me break through like the entire deal process. So really, there are 4 steps to every single deal out there, and the first step is always acquiring the deal. How do you get it? Second step is the escrow period. Like after you get the contract or the offer accepted, you're in escrow. So it's that period. There's the rehab where you actually have to fix up the home, and then there's post-rehab, like selling the home and all that stuff. So with those 4 stages in mind, like I'm gonna go through an exact timeline for this thing, and I'm gonna start at the very beginning with a deal that I'm going through right now so that it's fresh in my mind, and I can kind of tell you like who's all involved and how does everyone win? Like why is it good for house flippers to flip houses? Like who does it benefit? Okay, so as far as acquiring the deal, I found this particular deal, it's in Fresno, California, and I found it on the MLS. The MLS is the multiple listing services, basically where all the realtors go to list their homes. Like when people say the market, that's the MLS. It's all the homes that are listed for sale. So I found this home on the MLS with the help of a realtor. So basically I had offered tons of times, like on the MLS. So I was constantly searching at MLS. I was texting these agents, hey, would your seller entertain an offer of this? And usually like a home would be listed at 200K. I'm offering like 100K. So like I'm offering way below list price most of the times, and no success. Like most of those offers were no's, probably like 99% of them. But there's the 1% where the sellers actually said, yeah, I'd entertain that offer. And for that 1%, like that's how I found this deal. It was after months of offering, months of following up with these agents. And the people that were involved in that, first I had to get pre-approved by my hard money lender. Now, my hard money lender is the lender that I use for most deals to at least use as a pre-approval letter when I'm making offers on the MLS. So whenever you offer on the MLS, it's good to have some type of pre-approval letter, because a pre-approval letter tells the sellers, hey, this person is legit. He actually has the funds available to buy my house because a bank approved him. That's why I get the pre-approval letter from my lender first. And my lender, they get paid at the very end in interest payments. So whenever I buy the home, I'm paying them monthly in interest payments, and they also charge me fees up front. So my lender is one of the first parties involved before ever offering. I just want to get pre-approved before ever offering on the MLS. Now, as I'm making these offers, who's involved there are a couple people. So when I'm making the offers, usually, well, in the past, I've been the one to make the MLS offers, the texting, but now I have an MLS acquisitions agent to make those offers for me. So in this particular deal, I have my MLS agent who's essentially the buyer's agent for me. So she's the one who's making the offers, and she's representing me on this purchase. So she's representing me, but there's also the listing agent, the agent who's representing the seller. So these are 2 people involved in the deal at the very beginning. They're just agents, and they get paid out in commission. So whenever I buy a home, I don't know if it's every single state, but at least in the state that I work in, California, typically it's the homeowner, the seller, who pays the commissions for the agent. So there's my buyer's agent and there's listing agent, and the seller is gonna be paying both their commissions. So that's how they get paid. That's why they're doing the work, and that's kind of who helps me out on that side. So when I make the offer, they both get paid, and now I have a deal under contract. So the acquisition part, as far as like finding this deal on the MLS, the only people really involved are my hard money lender and the listing agent and the buyer's agent and me. And so you kind of see how we all benefit. So that's acquiring the deal. Next step of the process is the escrow period. So the escrow period, that's essentially the time where I get an offer accepted. So I make an offer, seller accepts it. Now we have a fully executed or fully signed offer. I take the offer, I bring it to a title company. Now, this is in my area. I know in certain states, or at least I think in other states, there are like attorney states and there are title states. So like in some states, you have to bring your contract to an attorney. In the states that I've worked in, just California, I just have to bring it to a title company. So I don't know what your state is, but at least from what my experience, I have to bring my contract to a title company, and the title company is the one to say, okay, like let's start the escrow process. And so I bring it to them, they start escrow, which is essentially like the transitionary period of me buying the house. Like that's what escrow is. And as of today, escrow is necessary so that people don't get scammed. So for example, if there's no escrow, if there's no title company, no middleman between the buyer and the seller of a home, like imagine this scenario. I'm the buyer, I say, hey, I have $100,000 in cash to buy your home, and then there's a seller says, I have the deed to the house, like let's trade. Well, who gives it first? Like, do you give the money first, or do they give the title first? Like, how do you ensure that no one gets scammed? And the reason why we have a title company is like they're the middleman. And the title company benefits from getting all these different fees that they can charge up front. Like, I actually they have a lot of fees that they charge, and I don't even realize it sometimes. Sometimes I'll look at the closing statements and I'll see, I'm like, why are there so many fees from a title company? It's just like notary fees, signing fees, like loan fees, like there's just a lot of fees they charge. So they make their money when you buy the home. So like that's how they make their money. So once I send the fully signed agreement or the offer to the title company, I do a couple things kind of simultaneously. So one, I'm looking for a private money gap funder. So this is going to be the person who's going to bring me funds for the down payment, closing costs, and for the rehab costs. So this is usually just someone in my network or someone from social media who trusts me to lend me money, and I can give them a % return on their money over time. But basically I use that person's money to fund the down payment, closing costs, the rehab costs, so that I don't have to use any of my own money. Like that's how I buy deals with none of my own money. And they get benefits because they get paid a % return on their money, so that instead of putting it in the stock market where they're not really sure what the return is, I can say, hey, we agreed on this exact return. This is exactly what you're getting, even if we lose money. Like that's what they're getting out of this deal. Number two, I start to communicate a lot closer with my hard money lender because I want to make sure that they have the ability to fund this home. So a lot of times these hard money lenders, they don't just give you money all willy-nilly. Like they have to make sure that you're buying an actual good deal. And in order to do that, like you have to make sure you send documents, or like they have to see the home. Like there's different things that the hard money lender, you, and the title company are going to be communicating around so that they make sure that they can actually bring the money to the table and you can bring your money to the table with a private money lender. So like that's the part with the funding during escrow that kind of happens all at once. Another thing that happens is I walk through the property via FaceTime because I'm a virtual flipper, and I walk through the property via FaceTime with my project manager. So we basically go over the scope of work with the property. By this point, usually I have not seen the property, like laid my eyes on it in person, and I usually never do. But basically once we make an offer, we're in escrow, I'll call my project manager and say, hey, like we got to set up a time to look at the property. Like he's there in person, he or she is there in person, I'm far away, and we go on FaceTime or something, or at least maybe we have videos or pictures of the home, but FaceTime is usually ideal. But we can go through either pictures, videos, or FaceTime, and we can kind of come up with the vision for the home. And that's where we're coming up like, hey, we want to do quartz countertops, we want to do this in the bathroom, we want to do these lights. Like that's where we plant the vision, is at the very beginning in escrow. Like I want to make sure that we have the vision lined out before we fully buy the home, so that I can kind of anticipate like all the different costs that are associated with fixing this home up. And then typically I pay my property manager a flat fee. Usually it does depending on the situation, like how hard the deal is or whatever, but usually it's a flat fee per project. So I pay them, that's what they get benefits out of, and they get to learn the process. So usually, at least for me right now, it's usually someone who's kind of newer to investing and who just wants to learn and is kind of hungry. So like that's who I'm usually picking for my project manager today. I don't have like a set property or project manager on every single property. Also during this escrow period, I'm also sending out other contractors. Sometimes I save it for after, but usually I'll try to send like a termite inspector or a roof inspector and just my boots on the ground person who's also my project manager, just to kind of look at the home and tell me if anything is like seriously wrong with it that I missed. It's like one of the worst things that could happen is, you know, you buy a home, you didn't anticipate fixing a big ticket item like an HVAC unit, like maybe it was completely broken, and maybe when you send your boots on the ground, they finally see it and like, hey, like the HVAC is like messed up completely, but you wouldn't know that unless you were in there in person. So it's really good to have some type of inspector at the property during the escrow period, and it doesn't even have to be like a professional inspector. Like that does cost money. At least in my experience, it's cost me like $4 or $50 for an inspection, like a professional inspection. And now I just have my boots on the ground check it out, or like my project manager. And then I send a termite inspection because that's cheap. And then I send a roof inspector because that's free. So the termite inspector gets paid a flat fee for the service of like inspecting the home. And then the roof inspector, usually they do inspect for free, but they get paid if there is actual roof damage. You know, you can go to them to help fix it up, and that's how they get paid. Because like roofs are a very big expense. And so I think that's why they don't charge. I actually don't really know fully why they often don't charge for these inspections for the roof, but I don't know, it works for me. So just during this escrow period, you can see how many people are really involved. Like we have my lender, we have the title company, we have me, we have the roof inspector, the termite inspector, my project manager, and the last person, or I guess entity, is the bank. So when I wire the funds for escrow, like on the last day to send the funds in to buy the home, usually, at least at my bank, I don't have a bank yet that does $0 wire fees, but they charge me like $30 to send a wire. So my bank even gets paid $30 for sending the wire. So they get paid, and that's like, what is that? Like 7 people, like 7 people who are getting paid just from escrow period. And after escrow, meaning after I fully bought the home, escrow is done, I closed on the home, sent the money in, have the deed like in my name. So once we're at that point, now we start the rehab process. And in the rehab process, a lot of things go on, but here's what usually happens first. Usually I'll try to have my project manager bring out at least 3 contractors to get bids on the home. And when I say bids, basically like a general contractor going out to the property, looking at what the project is, like with my project manager, because the project manager knows the vision of the home. He's telling the vision to the contractors. My project manager is the one to kind of explain the vision to these general contractors in person. So when he meets them in person, he says, hey, we want to do this to the kitchen, this to the bathroom, these lights. Like he tells like kind of what the vision is. And from there, the general contractors, those are the experts as far as like pricing. So they're the ones to give me the bid telling me, hey, we can do this project, but it's going to cost this much. And I try to get 3 of those to at least like get a general idea of what it's going to cost. And from there, I can kind of choose the best one, or I can decide who I want to work with by maybe adjusting prices. So like that's how it works. And not all those contractors benefit, like only one benefits really, because 2 contractors will maybe give me bids on the project. Like maybe they'll say, hey, this is going to cost 30K. Hey, this is going to cost 32K. And then maybe one says, hey, this is going to cost 28K. And I have a relationship with them already. Like, why would I take these ones? So I'll probably accept the lower bid, whichever one seems best. Like lower is not always the best, but I might accept the best bid and the other 2 contractors don't get anything. But this contractor, they get paid whatever we agree to pay them over the course of the rehab just to fix up the home. So that's what usually happens first. Another thing that happens if there is any other things in the home that need to be fixed that are not usually fixed by a general contractor, like maybe there's some specialty items, like maybe there's an HVAC unit, like, you know, the AC units at the top of the roof or whatever. Like I usually don't have my general contractors fix that. Usually I have like a specific person that I like to use for like fixing HVAC units, and I'll use them. So if there's anything like that, I'll also reach out to them, or I'll have my project manager reach out to them, telling them, hey, can we fix this ASAP or something? It kind of depends on like what's going on in the project. Often during these flips, you have to do things in like a specific order. And honestly, I don't know much about it. Like I kind of rely on the contractors for it, but like they might not do a certain task because you have to do this task first, or else it's going to mess up the first task. So there's a lot of different orders you kind of have to follow for general projects. And sometimes I can get like the big ticket items done fast, like putting up an HVAC unit. But once we find the right general contractor for this particular project, I'm the one to select the contractor. And then I just have my project manager be the point of contact for like the one managing the contractor. Like the project manager's job is essentially to babysit the contractor and like let me know, hey, they've done this, it's time to pay them. Or the contractors are usually the one reaching out to the project manager and say, hey, like, where's my money? Then my project manager comes to me and go, okay, like have they done this, and this? Like, is this enough to pay them this much? And if so, then we pay them. So like that's kind of how it works. And during the rehab process, like that's really who's all involved. It's really me, my project manager, and the contractor, maybe subcontractors, and then maybe like the other general contractors who bid but didn't get accepted. So that's who's involved in the rehab process. But now, once you fix up the home and finish the rehab, now we're post-rehab. So once the contractors finish the rehab, usually I have my project manager go out to the home and do a final walkthrough. So he's essentially the one to go through the scope of work that we initially had laid out, like the vision, go through the home, make sure they did everything, because they often miss stuff. Like I've never had a flip where they miss nothing. And so he'll go through the home, make sure that everything is done accordingly, like how it's supposed to be. And if not, he just calls the contractor, come back out to fix stuff. But after everything's completely fixed up, now we just list the home. And basically I have a specific agent that I use to list my homes, because she's usually the one to make these offers on the MLS for me. And so another benefit that she gets is I allow her to list my flips once I fix them up, so that she gets to represent me on the purchase and she gets to represent me on the resale, like when I flip the home. So usually I just choose the same agent to help me list the home, to help me sell the home, and she does all the work for that. And then once we find the buyer, there's usually another buyer's agent who's representing the buyer. There's my listing agent representing me as a seller. I'm the one paying out the commissions now for this time. Like, and then me as a seller, I'm gonna be the one to pay the commissions to the buyer's agent and to my listing agent for this particular one. And then kind of the same thing that happened on the acquisition, but we're gonna be using a title company. And of course, the title company gets paid all these different fees by me and the buyer. It kind of depends on what you negotiate, but that's who's involved in the post-rehab, like the sale process. So we have the listing agent that's helping me, we got the buyer's agent, we got the title company, and I don't know if you realize, but just as I explained, like finding the deal, escrow, rehab, post-rehab, like that was a lot of people that was involved. Like that was probably 12 to 15 people involved who are getting benefits for this. Don't quote me on that, I don't really know exactly, but like roughly, like it's at least 10 people who are getting paid just from me flipping a home. And that's why when a lot of people say that like house flippers suck, real estate investors suck, it's like they're stimulating the economy. They're giving people money by giving them jobs to do. And so like it's a legit business. And that's why I love it, is because you get to see everyone win, not just you as the flipper. So like everyone gets paid in different ways, and that's why I enjoy it. Also, if you want help to grow your real estate business, whether you're brand new or if you already got deals under your belt, click on the link in the description, fill out the application, and someone from my team's gonna reach out to you. Peace.